Hello and welcome. I'm your co-host and executive producer, Ken Sky. Welcome to another episode of No Strings Attached, where Dr. Mark Goulston and his guest give valuable, usable, doable by you tips, tactics, techniques, and nuggets that will help you become more successful right now. We are honored today to welcome as our guest Dr. Ivan Meisner, the founder and chief visionary officer of BNI, which is the world's leading business referral network with over 275,000 members and 10,000 BNI chapters worldwide. In 2020 alone, BNI members shared over 11.5 million client referrals and generated over $16.2 billion in revenue. Many BNI chapters are currently meeting using BNI Online, a powerful and convenient platform that enables members to continue sharing new client referrals. Ivan is also the author of many best-selling books and speaks around the world, enjoying his current role as Colonel Sanders of BNI. One of the reasons we are so excited to have Dr. Meisner on our show today is because he is a great believer and a leading spokesperson for the idea that givers gain, which is right in sync with our program, No Strings Attached, where our guest and Dr. Goulston give what they give freely, knowing that helping you become more successful is putting great karma out in the world that will come back at some date. And if there's anything we need right now, is more good karma. We are currently live, which means you can participate by writing in the comment section. We'd love to hear from you. And without any further ado, please welcome Dr. Mark Goulston.
Thank you, Ken, and we are excited to be here with you. Ivan is delayed. He will be with us shortly, and I'm so excited to have him because BNI is this amazing organization, and Ivan is a big part of it. And he's going to drop some nuggets on us because I'm hoping to bring you guests that give you nuggets where you think, I never would have thought of that. That could work. I can do that now. So while we're waiting for him, I'll share one nugget because he's so prolific. He's probably not going to talk about this. And he's written many books. One of my favorites is a book called Who's in Your Room? It's a short book. Go out and get it and check his newest books. But and this is how Ivan thinks. So Who's in Your Room is about imagining that you live in a room and there is a front door and there is no exit door. And what he says is, before you let people into your life, imagine that if you let them in the front door, they're never going to leave. And so they're there for life. So if you lived in a room in which there was no exit door, wouldn't you be careful about the people that you let into your room? And when that book came out, I just thought it actually helped me. And it helped me to be, more clear about who do I want to add to my world and who are people that I don't want to add to my world. So he will be joining us shortly. And he's just filled with these nuggets. Like we had Marshall Goldsmith in our previous episode, they just flow from these people. And what I like most about our guests is they just see the elephant in the room. They see the opportunity in the room that others just don't see. And when Ivan gets here, I'm sure he's going to drop some of those on all of us. Also, while we're waiting for him, we have the chance now for my co-host and executive producer, Ken Sky, and to have a little conversation that you can listen into. Ken, what drew you to the notion of no strings attached?
Besides the fact that I get to learn a lot, have you ever met somebody that you think to yourself, I'm going to buy anything this person is selling, and they weren't even selling to you? I think that's what it does. When you share the way you share, Dr. Mark, it just makes people, it draws people to you. It's magnetic. And if I mean, I have met so many people who just come on, and literally today again on LinkedIn, they reach out, and the first initial contact seems friendly, and then immediately it goes to the point. So what are you using? And then they're trying to sell you something. And as soon as I get this message that's trying to sell me something, it just makes me like back off and shut the doors. And what you're doing with No Strings Attached is the exact opposite. It just sucks people right in because you're not trying to sell them anything. And that is just something that you can't resist. I think it's irresistible.
Well, I'll tell you, there is sort of a method to my madness in just giving things with no strings attached. Because what I've discovered is when you just give with no strings attached, your mind can be clear about just giving things that will be valuable to other people. And there's a range of people in the world. Now, granted, the people who are kind of at the hungry end because they're anxious, they have to make a living. You know, if you give to them, you know, they'll obviously take it and use it. But there's other people at the other end of the scale in which they're financially secure. And one of the things they don't like is when everybody's trying to hit on them. And so when you give to them something of value and you don't ask for anything, they feel such relief and gratitude that you're not hitting on them, that many of those people, they're grateful that they could lower their guard with you. And then sometimes they will ask you, what can I do for you? And with my good friend and our first guest, Marshall Goldsmith, he's the one who taught me about that. He said, Mark, when you just give to people like this, and they're used to people having an ulterior motive, what happens, what people do with Marshall is they say, Marshall, this really changed my life. What can I do for you? And then Marshall, in his Marshall Goldsmith way, he says, well, pay me what you think it's worth. You want to make a donation to my foundation, just do that. And so I think that's why we believe no strings attached works. And you eventually start attracting people who just appreciate the value and that you're not hitting on them.
That is so true. May I jump in, Dr. Mark? I just heard a knock on the door, and Dr. Meisner is here. So are you ready to bring him in?
Oh, absolutely. So
Let me get a thumbs up through the window here, Dr. Meisner. Are you good to go? Perfect. So ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Dr. Meisner.
Thank you so much.
Oh, Ivan, we were just talking about BNI and what a wonderful organization it is. And what I shared with our viewers is that you have this ability to see the elephant in the room that nobody else says, and you just give with such generosity. Mm-hmm. And so you don't plug this. What I talked about, for instance, one of my favorite of your many books is Who's in Your Room? And ever since I read Who's in Your Room, I've been a little bit more discerning about who I let into the room, especially if there's no exit door. Yeah. And I just found that was fascinating. And I still don't know why you let me into your room, Ivan, but I'm still going to appreciate it. So welcome into our room, Ivan.
Well, thank you so much. And listen, I am so appreciative that you're in my room, and I'm happy to be in your room as well. It's such a unique concept for the book, the book concept. And I don't know if your viewers know it, but basically imagine you live your life in one room, and that one room has only one door. And that one door is an enter-only door, so that when people come into your life or into your room, they're there forever. You can never get them out. Now, luckily, it's a metaphor. But if it were true, Mark, would you agree that most people would probably say, yeah, if it were true, I'd be a lot more selective?
Absolutely. Absolutely. In fact, here's something I've done. As soon as I read the book, I was thinking, who's already in my room?
Yeah.
And I'll tell you what I've learned, and this goes back to giver's gain, is what I've learned is that there are some people in the world who, instead of being givers, tend to be takers.
Yeah.
And I forgive them because many of the takers are coming from anxiety. They're not bad people. They're scared people. And so I will, if they reach out, I will continue to try and be helpful. but I don't necessarily nurture the relationship. The reason being
Right.
is as the room fills up with natural born reciprocators, which you are.
And you
others-
definitely are, Mark, no question.
Yeah. But welcome here. And is there anything that you'd like to share with our listeners and viewers with no strings attached? Is there something that you've been learning, observing, teaching at BNI that, and the criteria is, when you share it, their eyes open up and they think, I never would have thought of that, Ivan.
Yeah.
I think that would work. I think that I can do it. This is not rocket science, Ivan.
So networking is certainly not rocket science. But let me finish my thought about who's in your room, because I think there's a piece that your viewers would like to understand, and that is that I said it's a metaphor, but it's really not. It's more than a metaphor, because what I'd like everyone who's watching this, and Mark, I want you to think of someone that you got out of your life, because people tell me it's a metaphor because I can get people out of my life. So I want you to think, Mark, of someone you got out of your life. And if you're watching this, I want you to think about someone you got out of your life. Now, Mark, I'm not gonna ask you who it is. So you're not gonna have to share that. But I want you to think about what they did and why they were so aggravating and why you wanted them out of your life and what it is that they did to you. Do you have somebody in mind?
Scarily so.
So here's the deal. If they're still in your head, they're still in your room, and they will be there for the rest of your life, because the room starts here on your right temple and ends here on your left temple. It's your brain, it's your mind. And I interviewed, you probably know Dr. Daniel Amen, the psychiatrist, for the book. And he said, when you build a relationship with somebody, their fingerprints are all over your brain for the rest of your life. And so why aren't we more selective then about the people that we let into our life? And you named it, you've let some people in that maybe in retrospect you wouldn't. I certainly did. I think everybody did. And we just got to get better at, look, Mom taught us this years ago. I don't want you hanging out with that Johnny kid. He's a bad influence, right? But we haven't paid attention to it sometimes, and we let people into our life that we should have never let in.
There's a tip that I'm giving people, and you haven't heard this, so this is fresh. This is fresh off the thinking press. What I'm advising people before they partner with someone in a business partnership or even a marriage. So when you're dating someone and you're thinking of upping it to something more serious, or you're thinking of someone that you're going to partner with, there's something that we call the 3 Ds, and it's 3 strikes. And what you say to someone in the conversation, and you say it in a very friendly way, you say, tell me about differences of opinions, disagreements, and disappointments in your last job or your career or in your last relationship. And what you're listening for is someone who makes those things always someone else's fault.
Yeah.
Where they take zero responsibility. That's strike 1. Strike 2 is, no, I can understand that, and I can understand why you felt disappointed. How did you contribute to the issue? What part of that was yours? If they still have no idea what you're talking about, that's strike 2. But they still get a strike 3. And the strike 3, in a friendly way, is you say, going forward, differences of opinion, disagreements, and disappointments are inevitable. So going forward, from your point of view, what's the best way to get through them?
Right.
And again, if it's all about other people having to agree with them and do things their way, even if you thought this was the love of your life, I'd suggest you don't let them into your room.
Yeah. Good advice. I like that. That's great advice. We're working on a second edition, Mark. Maybe we'll quote you in there.
Well,
it's 3 strikes.
That's
a great idea.
Yeah. So any other Colonel Sander, Meisner, Ivanisms that you can share with us, because they just drip out of you. As long as I've known you, you'll just sort of say something like, well, isn't this obvious to everyone? No, it's not.
Well, I tell you one of the things that I see in business people. And it just drives me crazy. If you want to be successful in business or in life, I really believe you got to do 6 things 1,000 times, not 1,000 things 6 times. And what I see most people doing is 1,000 things 6 times. They keep bouncing around from idea to idea to idea without ever consistently doing something over and over. And by the way, it doesn't have to be 6, it could be 5, it could be 7, but it's a handful of things that you do over and over again. Now, how do you pick those things? You have mentors who you listen to that give you advice. You listen to shows like this. You have friends that mentor you, and you pick a handful of things that you want to do and you want to do over and over again. If I have any superpower as a business person, it is that I am a dog with a bone. I take some idea and I work it and work it and work it and work it. And it's such a simple concept, yet I constantly see people chasing bright, shiny objects instead of focusing on doing the fundamentals and doing them over and over and over again.
Well, you're talking to a Chihuahua who chases shiny objects, and you know that well. And, I'm going to have to allow the love and care you have for me to rein me in. You're actually reminding me of a short episode. And if the viewers or listeners search for Johnny Ive, Jonyyive, Vanity Fair, they were interviewing him on lessons he learned from Steve Jobs. And he has a British accent. And he said, Steve was probably the most focused person I've ever met in my life. And Johnny said, for instance, Steve once asked me, what does focus mean? And Johnny basically said, well, he was kind of vague. And what Steve Jobs said to him, he said, no, what focus is you wake up in the morning and you come up with an idea that every bit of your body, your DNA, every cell in your body says yes, and you say no to it. He said, that is focus. So
that focus. He is well known for saying that one of the hardest things he ever had to do in his company was to learn to say no. That saying no is so difficult, but it was one of the reasons that he felt he was successful, is learning how to say no. And we talk about that in Who's in Your Room too. My favorite, you probably remember this, because people just say yes because they don't want to let someone down. And so for me, one of my favorite ways to say no to somebody is, if I said yes to that, I'm afraid I'd let you down. You're not even using the word no. You're just saying, I'm afraid if I said yes to that, I would let you down, and I don't want to let you down. It's a great technique to say no to people, and to be very focused about what it is that you believe you should be doing in business or in life, or it could be a charity. I had a charity come to me once, great organization. They did wonderful work, creating paths in wilderness areas. It was wonderful work. The thing is, it's not my passion. My passion has always been supporting children in education. I just came back from a memorial for my late wife, where they planted a tree at this children's center. It's always been children. And so it was hard to say no to him, but it wasn't what I am passionate about. And so I had to pass. I had to say no. Sometimes no is just a one-word sentence.
And were you able to say to them, if I said yes, I'd disappoint you, or how did you address that one?
Yeah, he wanted money. And so I focused on my values in terms of financial support to nonprofits. And so I was honest with him and said, my focus in charitable giving is for children in education. And I believe that children represent 20% of the population today, but they're 100% of our future. And you have an incredibly worthwhile program. It's just not a program that I tend to focus on. And should I find people or meet people, which is one of the other techniques to use that's in the book, should I meet people who I think this project would be their focus, I would be happy to refer them to you, because I think what you're doing is worthwhile. It's just not one of the things that I focus on. So, it's hard to argue with that kind of an answer. And he didn't. He got it. He understood.
So I want to share something funny. I don't like to use foul language, so this flirts with it. And the foul language is, and this gets back to saying no. Do you know what an asshole is?
Yeah.
An asshole is someone who keeps asking you for advice and never follows it.
Yeah. Yeah. I have a good friend, Patty Aubrey, who's the president of Jack Canfield Companies. She says she talks to a lot of coaches, and she said most of them really should be saying to people, take my advice. I'm not using it.
Wow, that's great. Yeah. So the comeback I learned from someone, if you have an asshole in your life,
Yeah.
and you give them advice, plus you went through the effort of hearing them, understanding their problem, thinking about it, giving them a solution, and they still don't do it. So someone shared this response, which I thought was magical. When someone's doing that, what you do is in the middle of their talking to you, you say, oh, I need to stop you. And they're going to say, what? Because I need to stop you because I'm hurting you. And they go, what? Yeah, I'm doing a disservice to you. And they say, what? And you say, here's something I notice, that when we have these conversations and I come up with advice or a solution, you feel so good getting it off your chest and you feel such relief that you have no motivation to change. So I am actually enabling you. I don't want to enable you to stay mired in this. And I've just noticed that. So I have to stop now, because every time we do this, you get it off your chest. It lands on my face. You feel better. I give you some advice, but you don't need the advice because you feel better, but you stay stuck in the problem. So I'm not going to be, because I care so much about you, I'm not going to enable you anymore. I thought that was magical.
Have you done it? And how does it work when you say that to them? How do they respond?
Well, a lot of it's the tone.
Yeah, of course.
So I'm saying it in a playful way because you and I share kind of our quirky sense of humor. But I think if you were to say it in a concerned tone, you could say, I need to stop you. Why? Because I think I'm hurting you. Huh? Yeah, I think I'm actually doing a disservice.
Yeah, I like that phrase. That's a great phrase.
Yeah, because I think when you get stuff off your chest, I can see you feel better, and I'm happy to help you feel better. But what I've noticed is when you feel better, you don't have the motivation to change it.
Yeah.
And so I'm helping you stay stuck in this, and I don't want to do that anymore. So it's all the tone.
Yeah, I love it. It's a great, you've got some great ones. One of my favorite sayings that you shared with me a long time ago, and I put it in one of my blogs, and it was about the fear of rejection. And I love this statement of yours. Correct me if I get it wrong. We have a lot less control over winning or losing at something than we do over trying or quitting at something. Always try, you can eventually win. If you always quit, you can never win. I have used that quote with so many people. It's about taking action, which is really what you're talking about, is people are asking, but then they don't take action. But you got to take action. And if you take no action, you'll get no result, or the same result you've been getting.
Yeah, I was just speaking with someone. He actually ran for president, but he didn't get very far. But and he's a middle of the road Republican, but he's really an independent, and he's more centrist, and he cares about all the issues that matter to all of us.
Yeah.
And he was talking about that what he cares about is the environment. And so I was coaching him a little bit. And one of the things I suggested, and you can use this, or other people watching this can use this, could say, something that I learned from another person, a sports psychologist. He said, people don't do what's important to them. They do what they care enough about. Like, it's important for me to eat healthy.
Yeah.
But I don't care enough about it to do it exactly as I should. And the measure that someone cares about something is they're actually taking action.
Yeah.
So I was just working with this person, coaching him, and I was saying, when you now go around the country about environmental issues, you might share that with the audiences and say, I care about the environment. And the proof of that is this is not my day job. I'm going around because I care about it.
Right.
And I need your help. Say that to the audience.
Yeah.
I know that you do you won't do what's important to you. You'll do what you care enough about, and I need your help. What needs to happen for you to care enough about the environment to take action? And I'm all ears.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like what you were saying about unless you take action.
Yeah.
There's that saying. If a tree falls in the forest and nobody hears it, doesn't make a sound.
Yeah.
I can't use that because the tree is taking action. It's just that nobody saw it.
Well, that's true. That's absolutely true.
So what else can you share with us?
Well, look, what I'm most known for is networking and building business through referrals. So let's talk about that a little bit. I think that the biggest thing that I see done wrong with networking is that people use networking as a face-to-face cold calling opportunity. I see it almost at every event I go to, even on Zoom events that we have. And for those people who don't know, I'm the founder of an organization called BNI. We have 10,070 chapters in more than 70 countries around the world. And we get together every week and pass each other referrals. We by the way, last year, Mark, we generated 16 billion with a B, 16 billion US dollars worth of business for our members all around the world. And what I see being done wrong is people use networking as a face-to-face cold calling opportunity. They'll meet someone and they'll say, "Hi, Mark, my name's Ivan. Let's do business." Or here's the one that really drives me crazy. "Here's 3 copies of my card. Maybe you can give a couple to some friends." And I'm like, "I'm sorry, what was your name? I don't even know you. I'm not going to refer you." And so you don't go to networking events to try to close sales. And that always surprises people. Why go to a networking event then? You go to a networking event for for 3 things, what I call the VCP process: visibility, credibility, profitability. First, you have to be visible. People have to know who you are and what you do. Then you have to establish credibility where they know who you are, they know what you do, they know you're good at it. And then and only then can you get to profitability, where people know who you are, they know what you do, they know you're good at it, and they're willing to refer business to you. What happens most of the time that I see in networking events is people try to jump over visibility, jump over credibility, get right to profitability. In one of my books, I call this premature solicitation, which you don't want to say fast 3 times, it'll get you in trouble. But that's what happens. And I see it all the time where people just try to, they just try to go straight for doing business. And I think one of the things and the reason for that is they're desperate. And you were kind of talking a little bit about desperation in the beginning. And the truth is that desperation is not referable. When you come across as desperate for business, you're not referable. And it's all about building relationships with people. That's what networking is.
I love that. I'd never heard that, but that's another one of Ivan's truism. Desperation is not referable. And you're so right. When someone comes at you and look, we can forgive them because they're coming from anxiety. They have to close sales or whatnot. But that anxiety feels like it could come over to you and make you anxious. And the last thing you want to do in referring someone to another person is make that other person have to deal with this person's anxiety and desperation. Right. But I love that phrase.
Yeah. It's, what's interesting about referrals is that I have hired people that, not too often, because with BNI, I got a lot of people that can get referred to me, but I may hire somebody off of an advertisement, but I will never refer somebody off of an advertisement. In other words, I'd never say, "Oh, I saw this ad on a billboard, you ought to call them." Where I might, or I saw this ad on TV, I might call them, but I would never refer somebody off of that. Why? Because we want to refer people we know, like, and trust. And so that means that networking is all about building relationships. Networking is more about farming than it is about hunting. It's about cultivating relationships with people. And until people get that, then they're basically using it as a face-to-face cold calling opportunity. And that just, people go to networking events. Occasionally they'll meet somebody who needs something that they want, but even a blind squirrel can find a nut. I mean, you can stumble over business, but I'm talking about long-term referral business, and that's all about relationships.
Let me ask you something. Something I've been sharing with people is something that we call the Hoova Technique, Huva. And we suggest people do it once a day with a conversation that you want to end well. And the way it works is you select that conversation, so you're intentional about it. And at the end of the conversation, you are going to rate yourself from their point of view. And what Hoova stands for is from their point of view after the conversation, on a scale of 0 to 10, how much do they feel heard out by you versus you interrupting them, changing the subject. And a 10 is they felt heard out. You is how much they feel understood by you. And they feel that when you ask them to say more about something, they bring up something, could you say more about that? Or how does that happen on a scale of 1 to 10? And then the V is how much do they feel valued by what you said on a scale of 1 to 10. And I think one of the things that's central to our relationship, I think we both feel valued by each other.
Yes, I do.
You just shared it. Desperation is not referable. That is terrific. And then the final A is how much do they feel you added value to what they were saying? And and I'm going to not only add value, I'm going to share that and quote you about desperation is not referable. That is a keeper. But if you can do that once a day, and don't beat up on yourself for being poor at it, because most people are, but you can really build your presence muscle.
Yeah, there's so much to unpack in what you just described. Let's start with, I really think that a good networker has 2 ears and 1 mouth and uses them both proportionately. They should be listening to the other person way more than they're talking. And I also believe that it's more important to be interested than interesting. That when you really come across as interested, and you're a master at this, by the way, Mark, you are an absolute master at coming across as interested. And I think that when you come across as interested, then people become interested in you because you're interested in what they have to say. And I think that's really counterintuitive, especially for salespeople. It's all about, I gotta really shine. I gotta say something that really impresses them instead of asking them questions and having them be heard.
Ivan and I met at a meeting at Peter Guber's house some years ago. And one of my mentors and one of Ivan's, I think his dissertation advisor was a fellow named Warren Bennis.
Yes.
So I was closer to Warren because I got to meet with him regularly. And he also used that quote. He said, and he would say this to me, try to be more interested than interesting. Try to be more fascinated than fascinating. Yeah. And here's my favorite Warren quote, and I got to work on it. He says, boredom occurs when we fail to make the other person interesting.
Oh, that's a great quote.
Oh, that's amazing. And maybe that could be the intention, that today when I network, I'm going to help the other person be interesting.
And you never know what impact that has. I'll tell you a true story. I'm a member of an organization, you know about it, the Transformational Leadership Council. And I went to one of the TLC dinners, and for whatever reason, I was sitting across from the daughter of one of the members, and she was probably like 23, 24 years old. I think I have a tie that's older than that. So, I mean, she was very young. She wasn't in transformational training. And I remember sitting there thinking, what am I going to talk about with this young lady? She doesn't care about what I do. And I thought, you know what? Shame on you, to me. Shame on me. I'm supposed to be a great networker. Just ask her questions. And I just kept asking her questions about what she was excited about, what she was doing in school. And the entire dinner was mostly me asking questions. Occasionally she would ask me something. Here's the thing. When the dinner was over, her dad came over to me and he said, "Thank you. Thank you so much. No member has paid that much attention to her as you did at dinner tonight. I am grateful." And now he and I have become good friends, and it happened. He and I became good friends because I spoke to his daughter and I was interested. And you never know what can come out of a relationship that you don't think there's anything in it for you. There's still a relationship in it that can be developed. And so I'm now better friends with this guy than I would have ever been had I not spent an evening talking to his daughter.
There is a saying that I heard from someone, and they say, do something for someone and they'll thank you. Do something for one of their children and they'll never forget you.
Yeah. Yeah, that's really, no question about that. That's true. Yeah.
Well, that's wonderful. Any other thing you want to share? Because I know your time's valuable. And would you be willing to be an occasional guest on this show? Because I love the conversations, but you're just filled with this, everyday man wisdom that's hidden in plain sight. Best kind.
Well, I'm always happy to play with you, Mark. Anytime you want, I'd be happy to be here. There's so many things that I can talk about. One of the things I think is really important, and I think you would agree, the more gray hair I get, the more people are asking me for advice on how I scaled my company to be in 70 countries. And one of the things I tell people is work in your flame, not in your wax. And they say, what's that mean? I said, well, when you're in your flame, you're on fire. You're excited. You're passionate about it. People can hear it in your voice. They can see it in the way you behave. When you're working in your wax, it takes all your energy away. You just feel drained, and people can hear that in your voice, and they can see that in the way you behave. And so the more you can find your flame, what is your flame in life, in business, and work that flame and have other people do your wax, hire people to do your wax. Even if even if you're not an entrepreneur, but you have stuff that has to be done at the house, hire a maid, hire a gardener, hire somebody. If that's your wax, do that. I remember, true story. I remember one of the first people I hired for my company was a bookkeeper, because bookkeeping, that was my wax. I mean, I know my way around a financial statement. I can read them. I know how I ran QuickBooks for the company, but I just hated it. It was my wax. And I hired this bookkeeper. And true story, she came to me one day, Mark, and she said, it took me 2 hours, but the books were off by 50 cents. It took me 2 hours, and I found the 50 cents. And I congratulated her. I said, job well done. And I told that to a friend, and I don't even know what I was paying her back then. This is like an 87, $15 an hour maybe for a bookkeeper. And I said, he said, did you reprimand her? And I said, well, why would I reprimand her? He said, she spent $30 of her time to find 50 cents. And I said, are you kidding me? No way did I reprimand her. I said, come on, think about it. What if it had been $50? What if it had been $500? That woman wouldn't go home at night. If the books were off by that much money, she would stay there. For me, Mark, if it were off by $50, it'd be like, close enough. It's close enough. But that was her flame. So when you bring people in to do their flame and it's your wax, then at whatever you're doing, you're more successful, because it leaves you time to live in your flame. And that's what we all need to be doing, is living in our flame.
Wouldn't you also say that when, there it goes, wouldn't you, they're coming to take me to the loony bin. They found me, Ivan. I've got to hide. Now, but you're safe. Wouldn't you also say that it's really important to acknowledge and thank the people that are doing the stuff in your wax
Yes.
so that they feel important as opposed to just an appliance or a function?
Yes. So important, Mark. I got another book. You don't know about this one. It came out a few months ago. It's called Infinite Giving. I don't think you knew about that one. And it's about the 7 principles of giver's gain. And one of the principles is gratitude and showing people gratitude. And I'll tell you how I open up the chapter. Gratitude is not new age psychobabble. It's science. And we quote many studies, Harvard Medical School, Yale Medical, Claremont University. We have like 6 or 7 studies that we quote in there that show that when you show gratitude to someone else, 2 magical things happen. And this isn't new age, this is science. 2 magical things happen. One is you increase the productivity of the person who you are showing gratitude for. And 2, the people who show gratitude are more productive. So it goes both ways. And each and every one of those studies had some variation of that truth, that showing gratitude in improved performance. And so who wouldn't want to improve performance in terms of the work they do? And so showing gratitude is so incredibly important. And that's what I mean, I was so proud of her. She found that 50 cents. Good job. Well done.
Well, I'll tell you, it means so much. Something that I've told people who seem to be famous, that one of the greatest gifts you can give someone who feels like a nobody, they literally feel like nobodies, is by showing gratitude and specific gratitude, for what they did, as opposed to, hey, thanks for being a help. When you're specific and say, thank you for having the tenacity to find that thing that I don't think we ever would have discovered, you can elevate so many people in the world who don't feel like anybody's. They feel like nobodies.
Yeah.
You can help them feel like a somebody.
By the way, that same woman found that someone was absconding with money from the company years later, and brought that to my attention. That same woman who had that dogged determination, she found somebody that was skimming money. She was worth every bit of what I was paying her and more. And yeah, that gratitude is I think so incredibly important. It makes a world of difference.
Yeah, there was a tip that I gave in this days of I did this with a company, and I said, we're going to do an exercise. I want you to raise your hand if you can think of someone you're grateful to in your life who's living, that you have contact information for. And we're going to take a break. And what you're going to do is you're going to go during the break and you're going to do a thank you video that you're going to text that person. And it's a 3-part thank you. And the first part is you thank, and you can say, this is long overdue. And trust me, those people aren't going to say, you never thanked me. You're not going to pick people like that. Yeah. And you do a video and you say, this is a long overdue thank you for, and you tell them specifically what they did.
Right.
You acknowledge the effort it took for them to do that. You didn't have to do that, and you went out of your way. And the third part is you tell them what it personally means to you. And if you do it correctly, you'll be getting a little emotional at the third part. And during the break, you're all going to send a video to someone like that and then come back. And it was a long enough meeting that I knew some of them would be getting text messages back from people that they hadn't even heard from. And that's what happened. Yeah. And we had the meeting, and I said, if any of you get a text message back, interrupt and say, hey, that person I just got a text message. And one of them shared, I just got a text message. Or a video message, and the other person said, I couldn't stop crying.
Oh, you never know what your words, how they impact other people, both good and bad. And you know, I'd like to make sure that my words generally impact people in a very positive way. I'll tell you a true story. This gentleman told me I could share this story. His name's Phil in the United Kingdom. And one day he posted something on Facebook about, you know, sometimes people just complain and complain and complain, and I'm feeling so depressed. And it's like, you know, I try to help people, and you know, all they're doing is complaining. And my late wife brought it to my attention. She said, "Hey, honey, you should take a look at this post that Phil did. He sounds really down." And I took a look at it, and he was definitely down. And all I did, Mark, was say, "Phil, hey there, brother. I know how hard you work. You're doing a great job. Keep up the good work, because you're changing people's lives." And sometimes people complain like it's an Olympic event. Nobody's ever built a statue to a critic. So trust me, I'm telling you, you're great at what you do. That was it. So I posted that. Didn't hear back until about 2 weeks later. And he sent me a photograph. He blew up my post into a big post and framed it and put it on his wall. And he sent me an email, and the subject line, all he said was, "Never underestimate." And when I spoke to him, it was like, you know, never underestimate the power of your words and of people's words. It just completely changed his day. And it's that kind of thing, that way of showing gratitude, which to me, I mean, I did it from the heart, and it was over. And I didn't think about it again for 2 weeks until I get this email with this photograph of Phil, who I don't know how he did it, but he blew it up into a really big picture, and he has it hanging on his wall. We all have people that are in our story, right? I'm sure you do. I do. Teachers who have made a difference for us in our life. But to me, the real telling of somebody's life is not who's in our story, but whose story are we in? Whose life have we changed? Have we changed anyone's life to the better? And to me, I've got people in my story. I share that a lot. But to me, the most important thing is, whose story am I in? Whose life have I changed in some small way?
Well, we're running out of time, but I got to give you a 3-part thank you.
Okay.
First of all, you make time in your life. You have a very busy life. You were at some other event, you're going to go to another event, and you made and took the time. This is kind of a startup program, no strings attached. And you did it. You did that. The second thing is, you are very busy. And not only did you take and make the time for this, when I reach out to you, you'll take and make the time for me anytime. And what it personally means to me is it's really special, Ivan. I mean, there are times when, you know, because I don't come from the business side of the tracks, you know, sometimes I think my stuff is too soft serve. And just your regard for me and your seeing value that I can offer the business world. Here we are on LinkedIn, you know, people are saying, "Oh, he's a shrink, he should be on Facebook." And you have no idea how much that matters to me. And I just want to thank you.
Thank you, Mark. I appreciate you, and it's reciprocal. You know, you were there for me when my wife passed away, and I was struggling with a lot of different things. I greatly appreciate you. And you know, you say I have a busy life. I like to call it, and I think it's all mindset. I have a full life. Everybody's busy. Everybody says they're busy. I like to think of it as a full life. I have a very, very full life, and I'm very grateful for the full life that I have. And so I'm very grateful for you being a part of that full life, Mark. Thank you so much for inviting me to be on this. I appreciate it. And I'll come back anytime you want.
And you just fashion another Ivan nugget without your knowing. So if you're viewing this, at the end of each day, ask yourself, did I have a busy day or did I have a full day? And see where that leads you, and ask yourself, what can I get done or do tomorrow so that it's not just busy, but it's fuller?
Yeah.
And that's a concept inspired by Ivan Meisner. So thank you.
Thank you, Mark. I appreciate you so much.
The feeling is very mutual. Thank you so much. And Ken, do you want to take us home?
I certainly do. Thank you so much. And what an amazing story, and what a privilege it is to be the fly on the behind the screens here. So I'm going to do very quick. I mean, it took like 5 pages of notes. So I'm going to just very quickly name some of the highlights that that came to mind. So I so much agree with you regarding that networking thing. So first, develop a relationship, and who's in your room, or these days, who's in your Zoom? And mentorship. And the fact that sometimes if I said yes, I'm afraid I'd let you down. That was just eye-opening. And anybody who has a mentor here, please take that to heart. I thought it was hilarious when he said, take my advice, I'm not using it. The fear of rejection and what we have control over. We don't have control over winning or losing, but we have control over taking actions.
And that was Mark's.
It's
Yes.
shared, Ivan. It's shared. Go ahead. Go on. Ken.
The shared brain, the brain power here. So, and let's go to visibility, credibility, and profitability. Very well said. Desperation is not referable. I took lots of mental notes too. So more listening, more being interested. And by the way, if you ever, I learned this today from you, Dr. Meisner, if you ever don't know how to talk to someone, just do JACK. It stands for just ask questions.
Yeah.
So that's how I'm going to remember that. And boredom is when we fail to make the other person interested. And work on your flame, not your wax. And by the way, anybody who sees this now, you got to go back and watch everything. It's amazing. Gratitude, yes. It's not psychobabble. It's science. I can now have proof for that. And the thank you video, of course, mentioned by Dr. Mark. And to never underestimate the power of your words. And I couldn't agree more with that. And I got emotional, especially when you said at the end, whose story are you a part of? So thank you so much, Dr. Meisner, for coming today and for sharing
Ken,
your amazing...
Call me Ivan, Ken, please.
Ivan, it's a real pleasure.
Thank you. And thank you, Mark. I appreciate you.
Well, I'll one-up you. I love you, Ivan.
I love you too, Mark.
I love both of you too.
And you'll come to love Ken if you get to know him.
All right. Well, I look forward to that.
That would be great.
You know, Elizabeth called herself my late wife called herself a lovetarian. She just loved just about everybody. I'm like, what do you see in that person? No, you got to love them. Okay.
Well, her love lives on in you, Ivan, and you share it with the world.
Thank you.
Just before I play the thank you page here, we do have a comment here. It says, thank you both for sharing your experience with us. We need shrinks on LinkedIn. So there you go. There you have it.
Excellent.
Thank you.
And so here we go. Thank you.
Thank you.